Okay,
All right.
recording is on.
Good morning. I'm David Jackson. I'm the Vice President of NCNARFE Chapter 192. I'd like to welcome you all to our October meeting. And just to let you know, Jim Dukeman is in town, but I think he had a conflict with getting one of his airplanes inspected or something of that nature. So one more time, I will be leading the meeting. I sent out an agenda yesterday, and I'm going to try to follow as closely as I can. I want to tell you all that this meeting is being recorded. If you do not want your picture on the recording, please take this time to turn off your camera. So we would then just see your abbreviations, I believe that's what we say. But please duly note that this is a recorded session. Okay. Roy Downey, would you like to open the session with the Pledge of Allegiance, sir? I guess Roy's on mute.
Roy's got his mic turned off.
Are we there?
Yeah.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, and Betty, as the chaplain, would you have a few words to say?
Yes, I have. Can you hear me? Last time we had a problem with you hearing me. Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you, yes.
From the Daily Book, Positive Quotations by Linda McCone, I'm going to read what she says about October 1st. An anonymous quote says, "Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen. We stand behind our principles, and we're not afraid to tell people what we think. We've even gotten in trouble for that from time to time, because people aren't always that interested in what we think. What we need to do a bit more of is to listen, really listen to what others think, and to give what they say serious consideration. Sometimes we're so busy planning the next thing that we want to say that we barely hear what anyone else has to offer." And her from this was, "I won't falter in my willingness to put myself on the line, but I realize that others may feel just as strongly about their positions. I will listen to and respect their thoughts, even if I still don't agree."
Okay. Okay, Betty, thank you very much. Okay, on the agenda, the next thing I have is the president's announcements. I've pretty well given that already, and I see that our guest speaker is on board. So John, if you don't mind, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce our guest for today's meeting.
Okay, and before we get started, we're getting some background noise through. So if everyone would turn off their mics unless they're wanting to speak or ask a question a little later, that would be helpful. This morning we have Ms. Deborah Ross, who is candidate for the 2nd North Carolina Congressional District. Ms. Ross received her law degree from UNC Chapel Hill after graduating from Brown University, and she's had a varied career. A few of the highlights: Ms. Ross was appointed state director for the ACLU in North Carolina in 1994 and held that position until 2002. During that time, she worked with Governor Jim Hunt on reforming juvenile justice, policing issues, and First Amendment issues in North Carolina. In 2003, she was elected to the North Carolina House, serving until 2013. There, she worked for equal pay, voting rights, and coastal protection policies. In 2016, Ms. Ross ran for the U.S. Senate against Richard Burr and lost in a very close race. Today, she's going to speak to us on what she would like to accomplish as our member of Congress and address a few of the questions that I sent to her before the meeting. It's my pleasure to introduce Ms. Deborah Ross. I have the floor.
Thank you. Well, it's a pleasure to be with you guys this afternoon, even though we have to do it virtually. And wanted to just tell you a couple of other things about my background that might be relevant to you all. I did represent Wake County in the North Carolina General Assembly and had a very good relationship with state and federal employees, because Wake County is the center of so many places where we have state government and where we have federal government. I also served on the Pensions and Retirement Committee when I was in the North Carolina legislature, and served on a special committee on the future of retirement for state employees. I know that you all are federal employees, but I want you to know that several of the issues I know are going to overlap. And while I'm not an expert on all of your issues, and I have a lot to learn from you, I have done some work in these areas. And in fact, we did a town hall during this campaign just on retirement security issues, and involved some folks who were federal and some folks who were state, and then of course talked about Social Security. I have lived in Wake County for more than 30 years and came here to be a lawyer. And so in addition to my work with the Civil Liberties Union and my work in the General Assembly, I've been a practicing attorney in Wake County for more than 30 years and have done work that has spanned civil rights, environmental and energy issues, and infrastructure issues. And I have represented a lot of state and federal employees when they've had, particularly when I was a civil rights attorney, when their civil rights were violated. I jumped into this race when the new 2nd Congressional District was redrawn right after Thanksgiving. And it has been a whirlwind. When we first filed for office, we had no coronavirus. And so most of the issues were just the issues associated with a growing district. 60 people a day move into Wake County, and they're not all younger people. I learned there are a lot of retirees who move to Wake County to be with their families because their families have moved here for school or employment. And so it's a very interesting intergenerational group of people who have been moving to this county. And so we kicked off the campaign talking about growth and housing and transportation and education challenges, and all of those challenges remain. But as you know, the coronavirus has really taken front and center. And so since March, we know that the most important thing is to get people back to work, back to school, back on secure economic footing in a safe and healthy way. And I have been talking about expanding access to affordable and accessible health care. Here in North Carolina, as you know, we didn't expand Medicaid. And so we have a whole group of people who, more than 500,000 people, who could have been having health care during this coronavirus and simply do not. We also know, and I'm familiar with gaps in coverage for people who might retire early, but then healthcare is simply unaffordable for them, even on the exchange and with the Affordable Care Act. And of course, we want to do everything that we can to close that gap. And then the price of prescription drugs has got to come down, and I'm of course for negotiating with the drug companies and having removing barriers to negotiation for prescription drugs. We've also seen on the campaign trail that retirement security is a very, very important issue to people. And again, this is crossing generations. It's not just our seniors. the millennials are very, very concerned about retirement security because they've got large student loan debt. They may not be able to be buying a house. They're worried about how they're going to save for their retirement, how they can raise a family, and then how they can take care of some of their student loan debt. And so I've seen retirement security be front of mind, not just for seniors, but for the next generations as well. We are doing everything virtually, unless it's a completely social distance, mandatory mask event. And so I want you to know that I like being able to interact with as many people as possible, and we are doing everything that we can to reach out. I need to put my glasses on to see, okay, that somebody said that my webcam is no longer visible. Can you all see me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
So I don't know what's going on with the webcam, why it went away.
Now your microphone went off.
Okay. Can you hear me?
You can hear you now, yes.
Yeah, and let me turn the camera on too. Okay. I do not know why that, I don't know what happened. I was just talking to my iPad and there it went. But anyway, I'm back now. So anyway, we are doing everything virtually. We are working very, very hard to get out the vote in Wake County. And getting out the vote in Wake County is crucial because in Wake County, we have more voters than any other county in the state. And of course, most of them can vote for me. And so that's how we're running the campaign. In terms of what kind of legislator I'm going to be in Congress, I will be the same kind of legislator I was when I was in the General Assembly. I had a reputation for working very hard, working across the aisle, trying to make sure that I listened to all points of view in the district. I take the title of representative very seriously. I want to make sure that I represent everybody in the district, regardless of whether you supported me. I think we have more in common than we have different. And I want to make sure that people know that they can come to me and share what's been going on. Right now, I've been making 50 to 100 phone calls a day. I've been hearing about people's personal stories. I know that this coronavirus is really impacting people. It's impacting their health care. It's impacting their lifestyle. It's impacting them economically. It, as you know, it has hurt our seniors even more in terms of morbidity. And I have talked to people about how we can make our nursing homes safer, how we can provide a better job conditions for the people who work in our nursing homes. So I'm a good listener, and I get around the district. I know most of the local elected officials in the district, and I've been in touch with them. But the most important thing is I want you to know that I will be on your side. I understand the outstanding work that our federal employees do. I consider your work to be really as ambassadors for the federal government. Not only do you do the work that you do, you represent the federal government in a positive way. And so I see it as my job to make sure that you have the working conditions, the benefits, and then as you retire, the retirement security that you've earned for doing so much for our country. And so I'm going to stop there because I know that you have a lot of questions for me, but I wanted to give a little flavor of my background, how we're running this campaign, and how I intend to govern when I join this next Congress in January. And if you haven't voted, please vote for me, and please make a plan to vote. We have many safe ways to do it here in North Carolina.
Okay, does anyone have a question to ask at this point? one of the things that it looks like we're possibly facing, or we're definitely going to be facing in one aspect or another, is healthcare in the country. The ACA is being considered by the Supreme Court right now, whether it's going to continue or not. And what is your idea if the plan continues? What should we do next? And if it doesn't continue, what's going to happen?
Well, if the plan does continue, if it's upheld by the Supreme Court, we need to build on the ACA to make sure that more people get access to affordable health care. So some of the things that I mentioned earlier, North Carolina is one of 12 states that has not taken the federal government up on Medicaid expansion. We send our tax dollars to Washington, D.C., and then Washington, D.C. sends those tax dollars for health care to other states. And it is imperative that North Carolina expand Medicaid and provide vital health insurance to, like I said, 500,000 people. And we know many of our seniors rely on Medicaid if they end up going into a nursing home or assisted living. So it is just crucial. We also need to make sure that we can negotiate to reduce the price of prescription drugs and to reduce the cost of some of our procedures that have gotten out, very, very expensive. We all know that the reason why some of our medical costs are high is because we have uncompensated care, and that basically means people who can't pay their bills. So getting people that kind of coverage is crucial. I have been public that I am for a public option for people who cannot afford to be on the exchange and pay those premium costs. But we have been seeing with the Affordable Care Act some prices coming down for insurance, and I'm hopeful that as more people get covered and we expand Medicaid, that those prices will come down. The other, if the Supreme Court finds that the Affordable Care Act can't be sustained, I am very hopeful that we will have a president, a U.S. Senate, and a U.S. House that will be able to follow the legal guidance and get back as much of the ACA as we can, and then of course add to it with the different programs, coverage, and protections that I just mentioned.
I have a question about the norms that have been broken during this past administration. And regardless of which party is in power, it seems to me it would be to the country's advantage to have more laws, more regulations in writing regarding what we've in the past considered norms, but to put them in legislation. So if you go to Washington, will you work toward that goal?
Well, if I go to Washington, I am going to govern with civility and with respect for our institutions. And I did that when I was in the General Assembly. I served when the Democrats were in charge, when the Republicans were in charge, and when we were evenly divided. And the fact of the matter is that everybody who gets elected represents citizens of this country. And we need to respect each district and each representative. And so I am all for setting new standards for how we govern, how we conduct ourselves, and how we treat the public. Enacting them into law, we could do that. The thing about a law is you can always change it. And so if we can come together in a bipartisan way and really have a code of conduct, a way that we treat each other and treat our constituents and treat the public, I am all for that. I chaired the ethics committee when I was in the General Assembly, and I worked on ethics standards. And I just believe that when you have the public's trust, You need to treat the public and treat your colleagues and treat your institutions with the ultimate respect.
And relative to federal employees' retirement, there's been talk about reducing the benefits that we currently receive. Also, the same for Social Security. And so, I'd like to know how you would approach that when you're in Washington.
Well, I've been very clear that I will protect Medicare and Social Security. I think that there are a lot of good ideas on how to do that. I'm very distressed by what this administration has done with Social Security and Medicare, and then making promises for the future that would diminish the amount of money that we have to invest in them. So I've been endorsed by the committee to protect Social Security and Medicare. I'm also committed to keeping our commitments to our retirees. I mean, obviously, and we dealt with this when we were in the General Assembly. People are vested in their retirement benefits, and people who come into the government have decided to join the government because they care about their country, but also because we make promises to them about the salary and benefits that they'll get. And I know that frequently government salaries do not keep pace with the market. And one of the things that government jobs have provided have been a pension. And we have gotten away from defined benefit plans in this country and relied, I think, too much just on defined contribution plans. There are a lot of advantages, not just to employees of defined benefit plans, where they know how they can plan for their retirement and they're not subject to the whims of the market. But when you are a pension fund, you are a market participant that can demand, back to the question about how we conduct ourselves, can demand certain norms from the institutions you invest in. And you have that money, you have that power, and you can set the tone for how things happen. And positive things come from that, not just in terms of the returns that we get for our retirees, but also in terms of how markets are regulated. So as I said in my introductory remarks, I've worked on these issues. I did as a state legislator, and I am committed to working on them and being fair to people and understanding that when you take a job working for the government, you are doing something that is very, very important, but frequently at a lower salary. And we have got to provide the benefits and securely provide those benefits for people when they retire, because they made a sacrifice for all of us. And that would be you. So thank you for what you've done.
A question can I ask? I don't know if people can hear me. It says it says Madeline or Maddie up the top. That's the name of my computer and my wife. This is actually Bill. I'd like to ask if you foresee, Deborah, supporting one of the NARFE's legislative interests related to windfall elimination plan and the GPO, the government pension offset.
Right. Yeah, so I am learning about all of your positions, and so I am, as you can tell, very sympathetic to your positions. Of course, I'm a lawyer, so I always need to see all the fine print, but believe me, I come in from a very sympathetic and positive position.
Thank you.
I've got a question, John.
Go ahead,
Deborah, can you speak for a minute about what environmental issues that you would be supporting in when you're elected?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that question. I represent renewable energy companies, and I'm very supportive of increasing access to energy sources that are clean for the environment. And I think the country feels that way. As a matter of fact, it's become bipartisan. But there are several steps that need to be taken in order for us to increase the amount of clean energy that we use. Here in North Carolina, we passed, when I was in the General Assembly, the Renewable Energy Portfolio Standards, and we've been gradually increasing the amount of clean energy that we use here in North Carolina, and it's been very successful. But we have to figure out how to get that energy out to everybody, and we also have to make sure, because we all want to be able to use electricity when we need it, that that energy is available when it's dark out and when the wind doesn't blow and all the rest. And so many of our renewable energy resources are intermittent. So we need to figure out how to store more of that clean energy. And so there's a bill that the House passed just last week that focuses on creating the incentives, the resources, the infrastructure for this. We also have to reduce auto emissions. We know auto emissions lead to a lot of the climate change that we are seeing now. And there are a lot of different ways that we can do that, everything from hybrid cars to electric vehicles. So I'm interested in all of those things. We've also seen in this administration a rollback of many of the environmental protection regulations that involve clean water and clean air. And I would absolutely want to reinstate our environmental protections. We have a big problem with water infrastructure in this country. It's aging. And then there are areas that have had big problems with the quality of the water. Actually, even here in North Carolina, in Wilmington and Fayetteville, we've seen things that are put into our water, discharged into our water, and then, of course, the issues in Flint, Michigan. And we've got to make sure that everybody has access to safe drinking water. So those are some of the issues that I'm interested in. Many of them dovetail with infrastructure issues, and because I've spent time working on infrastructure projects, I think I can be very helpful in this next Congress.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
What is your expectation for the safety, I guess you'd say, of our election process? It seems like there's a lot of chatter about monitors at the polling places and actually disturbances that might happen. Do you have any comments about that?
Well, there's a robust voter protection effort going on, everything from poll watchers to poll greeters to lawyers who are on call and who will be at election sites. I can tell you that in North Carolina, we are so fortunate because we have 3 ways of voting. So as you know, you can do absentee vote by mail right now. And so, make sure you follow all the rules so that your ballot doesn't get held back. Get your witness and sign it and do everything that you need to do. But that has been going on since the first week of September. And then we have early voting that begins, in-person early voting that begins October 15th and goes through to October 31st. And you can go at different times during the day when it's convenient for you, when it might be less crowded. It is going to be COVID safe with social distancing, masks, hand sanitizers, your own pens, all of those things. And then, of course, on election day, you people who have waited until the last day can vote. It is the great hope that the vast majority of people will have voted before election day. And if that happens, then there will be much less opportunity to tinker with things on election day. And in North Carolina, early votes can get tabulated, fully tabulated, the second the polls close. And so all those votes that are mailed in or are done at the early vote sites can show up on election night. And so because we have all these things in place in North Carolina, I am optimistic that we will not have a debacle. But we are belt and suspenders kinds of people. And so we're going to have all those poll watchers, all that voter protection at the polls to help. And of course, North Carolina also has paper ballots and backup ballots. So if there's a problem, we can always count them by hand.
Great. Thank you.
Other question? I have another one that I could present. About 20 or 25% of the population does not have access to broadband, and broadband is obviously becoming more and more important in everyone's daily lives. What kind of plan might you favor to bring broadband to those whose places of living are uneconomic for the companies to service?
Mm-hmm. Well, this has been an issue that I've worked on for a long time. So I was one of the legislators who voted against North Carolina's approach to market-based approach to broadband. Interestingly, I was one of the younger legislators, and back then I was using a BlackBerry and reading my own emails and responding to things, and many of my colleagues simply were not using the internet in the way that my generation was using it. And so I saw the writing on the wall that we were going to, if we had a purely market-based approach, we were not going to be able to serve everybody. Our campaign did a town hall on broadband. And obviously what we learned, which we've been seeing in stark relief since the coronavirus, is that without access to broadband, kids are not able to learn. They're not able to go to school. People are not able to run their businesses and do their jobs. And now with telehealth, frequently you're not able to get access to the healthcare that you need. So it's crucial that we expand broadband. There are some simple technological solutions for some areas, and I've worked on them using small cell devices that you attach to towers or other, other fixed structures so that you can expand the broadband that you have. That's a cheaper, easier, smaller geographic area way of doing it, and so we're doing some of that. But our government basically has to allow public-private partnerships to go forward to be able to get broadband to more remote and hard to reach areas. Our state government has not allowed that to happen, and it has been to the detriment of many of our rural areas, but also some of our urban pockets. And so the federal government has got to step in and help. I know that Congressman Clyburn has been a leader in this area. I spoke with him last week and intend to be a good partner with him. And I've been all over the state of North Carolina for my U.S. Senate campaign, and boy, can I tell you where you do not get good broadband, because we had to bring a little MiFi with us wherever we went to make sure that we could do our job. And so you've got an ally in me in expanding broadband, and also somebody who's done some work in this area. So I'm not just talking about it. I've walked the walk.
I have a question about NARFE's position in legislative issues. David Price, in the most recent magazine that came out, was shown to have supported NARFE 100% of the time. Will you make an effort to continue in that same vein?
Absolutely, I will make an effort. And David Price is a mentor of mine, as is G.K. Butterfield. And then I also worked with Alma Adams in the state legislature. And so as I get my footing in D.C., of course, I will always consult with my colleagues. I think it's always good when a delegation works together. And he's always been very responsive, as have G.K. Butterfield, Congressman Butterfield, and Congresswoman Adams. And so I think you'll be adding an ally.
Good. Thank you.
Another question? I have another specific question on the postal reform bill that's been percolating around Congress for several years. NARFE has generally been in favor of the postal reform bill, but there were two provisions, one of which has been addressed, and that one was the pre-funding of health care for 75 years out for retirees, which is ridiculous requirement. But the other is more specific to federal employees in that postal retirees, people already retired, were going to be forced to go on to Medicare Part B when they had already chosen not to. And that was a step too far. Someone who's already retired shouldn't be forced to change what they've chosen to do based on the information that they had when they retired.
I completely agree with you on both of those issues. So you will have no problem with me on either of those issues. It's not just sensible, but it is the commitment that we made to you when you became a federal employee.
Other questions? If not, is there anything else that you'd like to tell us, Ms. Ross, before we sign off?
No, I just want to thank you for letting me join you today. I want to thank you for everything you've done for our country. And I certainly will have an open door when I'm in Congress. Hopefully we'll be able to see you in person soon when we get this coronavirus under control. And just please, if you have not voted yet, make a plan to vote. As I said earlier when we discussed this election and voting, North Carolina has more options for voting, safe and secure, than other states. And so we should take advantage of them and let people know. And have a wonderful afternoon, and thank you so much for letting me be with you today.
Well, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciated it.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
David, we'll turn the meeting back to you.
Okay. Thank you.
So let's.
That was good. I was going to say that at some point in the meeting, I was going to refer to the NARFE magazine. I'm glad that Robert brought up what he did. There's a lot of good information in this issue, including, as Robert mentioned, the voting records of the various congressmen and senators in support or non-support of NARFE issues, and a lot of other good information, including a questionnaire that went out to the two presidential candidates. One responded, one didn't, but there's a lot of telling information if you go through what's in there. So I guess I should just leave it at that, but take some time, especially if you're not voted yet, to get up to speed on the issues and where we are on NARFE positions and pending legislation, which John is going to cover later.
I would second that. It's good reading and a lot of information.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go back to the agenda that I sent out. As I said, I tried to follow this as closely as I can. So the next, we're ready for reports from the chairs of the various areas. Chris, are you ready for our secretary's report?
Sure. Not that I have much to report. I'm behind on getting the minutes out of the September meeting. I hope to get everything caught up real soon and get that out to everyone. And I apologize for not stepping up to the plate when I should have.
Okay. We'll look for that when you get it out, sir.
Chris, I will call you later today to get you those recordings you asked for.
Henry, great. I really appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I only have 2, but that's 2 more than you have at the moment.
Yeah, and is there I hope to get those within the next week, but is there a time limit on using those recordings?
Not at all.
Okay.
I can download. We'll talk afterwards. I'll call you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, Cleveland, would you mind giving a treasurer's report?
Okay. As you know, we haven't had any activities going on, so I'll give you the report for last month, and it'll be the bottom line of our finances, basically. We did have some dues that come in from National, and our ending balance is $2,929.11. And that is basically what we have, left in our checking account. So that is the amount that we have at this point in time. We still have our finance, not finance, our assets as far as the capital bank that we have in amount of $6,636. So that's the actual report for September.
Okay. Okay. Anybody have questions of Cleveland?
Cleveland, that $6,636 is for the CDs.
Yeah, what I'll do, I can email that to you if you need it. The amounts.
Okay, if you don't mind, appreciate it.
Okay, I can do that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Cleveland. Bruce, membership report, sir.
Well, it's been a kind of a quiet month. I guess in a sense that's pretty good. I did have one person to renew. This actually dropped off last month, and I guess being prompted by the letter and the phone call, I think he decided to come back. So we stand at 229 as far as membership. Like I said, things have been kind of slow this month. I haven't had to send out any letters, which is good, I guess. So we're hanging in there with a number that's been pretty solid for the past several months. It's had a few ups and downs, but right now we're at the most we've had in quite a while at 229. So
Dave,
that's about it. Mm-hmm.
Dave, this is Henry Bratley. Could I add to that?
Sure.
We have instituted a membership drive, and you should have all gotten an email in your email inbox for that. We're going to, in concert with headquarters, give a total of $20 back to each individual for each individual you recruit over the next 3 months. So that if you take one a month for 3 months, that's $60 back to you. And in addition to that, we're going to have a $25 drawing each month. So if you recruit one person, then you'll get 1 ticket in the drawing box. If you recruit 3, you'll have 3 chances to win that $25. but it isn't just going to the top person. It will be something where everyone will have a chance to win that who has recruited someone. In addition to that, we're going to have a grand prize that is given out in January, and that is going to be an Amazon Fire 8. That's the latest version out, 34 gigabytes of memory on it. It's a tablet and very capable, especially if you're into Kindle books. It's a great way to read what you have instead of using your phone or something else. Again, I encourage you all to contact your family, your friends, your former co-workers, someone in the neighborhood you know who was a Fed, and if they're not a member, see if you can't recruit them. The other thing is if they're retired and you can get them to go on to pay payroll withholding, that will offset what the pay increase or the cost increase is going to be after January 1. January 1, the cost goes up by $8 to $48. That was approved in the national vote. And if you want to pay for 3 years ahead of time now, before January 1st, you're going to save yourself $24 because whatever plan you're on, it would be $8 more after January 1. So whether you recruit or not, it pays for you to renew your membership now for 1 or more years. And 2, we encourage you greatly to reach out to your friends, neighbors, family, and recruit them for NARFE and gain some of the benefits. Thank you, Dave.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say something about the membership drive at some point, but Henry, that was far more comprehensive than my notes were. So thank you for giving us all that information.
My pleasure.
There was a webinar that took place a couple of weeks ago about the new database for maintaining membership, and I think all the NARFE officers were invited to it, and so I kind of sat in just to get a sense of what's going on. Is that going to make your job any easier, or change your ability to extract meaningful information about members?
Are you asking me, Dave?
I'm sorry, I'm asking Bruce.
Okay.
As our membership chair.
I don't know. I haven't looked into it that far, I guess.
Okay. All right. Well,
if I could just add one more thing.
Sure.
One of the things that is now available with more clarity is the people who have not renewed membership due to not paying up again. So your retention issue, we haven't had good numbers or good information on that for almost a year. And that information is now available in much higher clarity than it was before. So if you haven't done so, I recommend you look at that report and start working on trying to get some of those folks back. I know some other chapters have concentrated on that and have been very successful. Thank you.
Question. If you have been and still have your membership taken from your pay, is it any necessary to do anything? Won't that continue? My membership has been going on for some like 20 years, and I haven't done anything about it. It's just constantly being deducted.
No, you do not have to. However, if you want to save some money, you can advance pay it. In other words, you would be paying it, you can do it online and just pay it in advance. So you do 3 years and you do it at the same rate you're doing now. Today, January 1st, that rate is going to go up by $8 a year, but it will continue regardless. You don't have to do anything.
Well, thank you. It's but at my age, you don't know whether you're going to live 3 years or not, so I just let it go on like it is.
Well, if you're worried, you can always put NARFE in your will Thank
I'm
you.
not going to change my will. Faye, you hear what I'm talking about? You're the next. You're a little bit older than I am.
Okay, the next report on my agenda is the sunshine report, but I heard this morning that Ernestine is in the hospital, that she had a fall. And now I'm just picking up on that. Does anybody want to expand on that, or if we have any more information to share? So that's what I know about it, John.
I got information.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll just relay what she told me over the weekend when I talked with her. Ernestine, I understand it, took a fall. Somebody's got a loud noise coming in. Okay, but the hospital is hanging on to her because they don't know the reason that she took the fall, and they're trying to figure that out. Now, we do not know what hospital she's at. Faye did not find that out, and so that's basically the sum total of the information that we have about it. But Ernestine has just turned 88. She was in the hospital for her 88th birthday. So if we only knew where she was, we could send her a sunshine card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to do that if we can find out where she is. I'll be glad to send a card out from the organization.
That'd be good. Okay. So if anybody finds that out, we'll get that information to you, Chris. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Okay, the next report on my agenda is Service Officer David Dropkin. I really thought I saw him on, but I don't see his face right now.
But
so,
he seems to have left.
Yeah. I'll move on to Legislative Officer John. If you have the report, sir.
Yeah, I have a few items to talk about. Talked about voting, and that was the top item on my list to talk about. I voted by mail. We requested our ballots, my wife and I, in August, and they came immediately after they were being sent out. We got ours on September 7th, and we sent it back in on the 29th. I used Ballot Tracks, which is available on the Board of Election website, to follow the ballot, and it reported when it went to the post office and when it arrived at the Board of Elections. And then on Saturday, just a few days after I mailed it in, I got a text message from the Board of Elections saying that my ballot had been accepted and I have officially voted. So it works out very easily if you do it that way. If you haven't started yet, you can still go on the Board of Elections website, and that's North Carolina State Board of Elections, and the initials NCSBE.gov is the website.
Say that again.
NCSBE for North Carolina State Board of Elections.gov. And there's a big banner there saying use Ballot Tracks. All you have to do is click on it and fill in the information it asks for, and tell them whether you want an email, a phone call, or a text message. And they will do it. If you haven't voted yet and you want to vote that way, do it right away. And I suggest sending your ballot back by mid-month to make sure that there's plenty of time for it to clear the mail system once it gets there, they seem to be very efficient at taking care of it at the Board of Elections.
John, I have a question. Yeah.
John, would you give that address for tracking again? I already sent mine in, but I didn't.
Okay, the Board of Elections website is NCSBE for North Carolina State Board of Elections. It's the initials. And .gov. That's the website. And just go to the mail-in ballot or the absentee ballot page, and maybe other places. There'll be a big banner saying ballot tracks. Click here and
Okay.
Go ahead.
John,
address and some other questions.
John,
Yes, ma'am.
if you go directly to North Carolina .ballot tracks BALLOTTRAX.net, you then can just put in your name, your birth date, and your zip code, and it will give you a status on your ballot.
Okay, any further questions on that? Okay, my next item Dave already covered. Look at the magazine for the article on what the candidates will do in terms of issues. Former Vice President Biden answered all the questions, and President Trump decided that he did not need to answer any questions. Next item, OPM. Our current acting director by the name of John Gibbs is considered for confirmation as the permanent OPM director. He testified at the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, and he faced some questions specifically from Maggie Hassan from New Hampshire and Mitt Romney from Utah concerning various previous actions of a questionable nature that were both before and during his tenure as acting director. And what that has resulted in is a delay in the committee's vote. It's not been scheduled, so we don't know whether that's going to happen or not. On the Postal Service, the federal court for the Southern District of New York ordered the Postal Service to reverse its recent operational changes that have delayed the mail delivery. It also ordered that all overtime necessary for the delivery of mail in the week before the election should be pre-approved. That is, there should be nothing to hold up any vote-related mail between now and Election Day, and if extra time is needed, it should be automatically approved. The Postmaster General, Mr. DeJoy, said he was not going to take any of these actions unless and until the court ordered him, and so now apparently he will have to. On the deferral of Social Security tax, for those of you who still have friends who are working, all federal, military, and civilian personnel are having their Social Security tax deferred by executive order from now until the end of the year. There's no indication that Congress is going to forgive these deferred taxes, and that means that all these employees are going to have to pay them back sometime shortly after the 1st of January, perhaps in the lump sum or perhaps as part of their income tax. That's unclear at the moment, but they will have to pay it back. So they should be well advised to just save it up. The Postal Service itself has declined to participate in that program, but the federal employees and military personnel don't have that choice. It was forced upon them. And finally, Congress passed and the President signed a continuing resolution to keep the government funded through December 11th. And so the lame duck session of Congress is going to be determining what the spending program for the government is for the next fiscal year. And Merry Christmas, everybody, on that one. And that concludes my report.
Question, John.
Yes, sir.
Regarding voting, I know there's some place you can contact to get the actual ballot you'll be using when you vote, or a facsimile of that. Do you have an idea of what that contact is? I think it's the State Board of Elections, and put in your zip or something. But
I know that the News and Observer has a voting guide that you put in your name and address, and it will give you your ballot, basically. And it also has questions that it asked each candidate, and their replies, all there available for your looking at. So that's one place to get an idea of what your ballot is. And I think Common Cause website also has something similar. I haven't looked that one up, but I did use the News and Observer one, and it was very helpful.
okay, thank you.
Okay. No other questions? Yeah, go ahead. Okay. John, do you have a separate report on NARFE?
Yeah, I have a little information on NARFE. Not anything local, but the national numbers. Headquarters reported that NARFE has supported 227 candidates and 44 national and leadership committees, and distributed more than $1.3 million so far this year. The campaign has generated more than $2 million in contributions, and there'll be a little bit more because the end of September was the end of the contribution cycle, and so the final figures aren't out yet. But more than $2 million is a good number. It's more than what we had the last 2-year cycle, which was just under $1.9 million. NARFE members have attended 94 in-person or virtual events with candidates in their state or congressional districts during this cycle. The goal was 110 by national, and we will be contributing to both our last month's meeting with Mr. Alan Swain and the meeting we just had with Ms. Deborah Ross. Will count towards those meetings. So I reported the one last month already, and I'll report this one shortly afterwards. And that's all I have to add about the NARFE at the moment.
May I add something, please?
Please.
I received an email from Ross Apter, and he writes, please let me know if you need anything, and thank you for being a NARFE leader. Stay well. And below that, they indicate that they gave Cal Cunningham $5,000 and Patricia Timmons Goodson $5,000. That is a much higher number than we're normally seeing when there is something given out by NARFE to North Carolina members. So they invested $10,000 in this year's election.
Okay.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your report, John, and the information you provided too, Henry. The next thing on the agenda is future programs. As you may or may not know, the open season for federal benefits runs from November 9th through December 14th. So we did have lined up speakers from Aetna and Blue Cross Blue Shield to attend, much as they have done in the past. So that's kind of lined up right now. If you have any other people to suggest, Beth, I can't remember right now who the third person was. They didn't get back with me, but that's why we're limited to the 2 people at this time. But that's what we have lined up for next month. For December, I actually sent an email trying to make contact with the Cardinal Singers early in the year, back in February or March, before the pandemic hit. And I haven't heard from them, but I'm not sure I should even bother following up with that. I'm not sure they would work with us anyway under all these circumstances. So I am open to suggestions as far as lining up someone for December. Of course, that's our Christmas month, and that's probably what the theme would be. But again, like I said, I'm open to suggestion. If anybody wants to make a suggestion now or email me or let me know otherwise, I would appreciate it. Okay. Our next meeting is on Election Day, on November 3rd. And I do hope that our president, Jim Dukeman, will be able to join us at that time. He was out of the state for a while for a funeral and the follow up to that. And then he had an appointment. He couldn't make our meeting this morning because of that, but he is back in town. So I hope to see him next month. Are there any other final questions or comments from participants in this meeting? Go ahead. I'll shut up.
I'd like to thank you, David, for filling in for Jim while he's out.
Okay,
Appreciate that.
Sure.
Yes,
Oh,
This is Henry again.
yes, sir.
I'm going to be adding a front piece and a back piece to the video when we put it onto YouTube, so you can send it out to all your members, or the link to there. But I want to be able to add a contact point. At this point, I've just put in Jim Dukeman as president and his email address. Is there anyone else that you would like to have as a contact point on there? If you do, either give me a call or email me, and I'll be happy to add it so that anyone who watches it, if you want to send it to people who wouldn't normally watch it, they want to know how to get in touch with you, and we'll have that on there. So again, send it to me if you have any additional.
Doris normally sends out our announcements to the general population of our chapter, so perhaps she would be the one. Doris?
Can do.
All right, Doris, if you would just send me your contact information, the phone number and the email that you want to use, and just send it to Bratley@Bratley.com. And
Okay,
that's BRATTLIE at Bratley, BRATTLIE.com.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah, Henry, you made me think of something else for next month's meeting when we have the Blue Cross Blue Shield and the Aetna speaker.
Aetna.
They're going to want to probably, I'm sure they are, but I had some email messages from them, have host privileges so they can show like a PowerPoint, visual aids. So I'll get those names to you, and you can include those individuals, those speakers, as I guess that's what you do. You give host privileges to them. Is that how that works?
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways. They can also just be made presenters, or we can list them as organizers, which gives them additional capabilities, but it's not a problem. We've done it many times before.
Okay.
and I expect to be here to help.
That just involves clicking on their name and making them presenter. Is that correct?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, good. And the other thing I want to say is somebody, I can't remember now who it is, that had mentioned asking if the Chapel Hill NARFE chapter can participate in our meeting. It was probably one of these Blue Cross Blue Shield or Aetna presenters. Somebody had suggested that, I guess, so they could kill two birds with one stone. So we're going to try to coordinate with the Chapel Hill chapter and have them included in our meeting in November.
Okay. Henry's a member of that chapter.
Oh,
yeah. I'm actually the vice president of the chapter.
I'm talking to the right person then. Okay.
But Walter Mack is the president, and if you contact him, he will send out an email to everyone with the link information.
Okay.
And Walter, you can get his number off the system, or you can go to the Beacon and look at that on the web.
Okay.
If you go to ncnarfe.org, to communications page, and click on Beacon, it'll bring up the current version of the Beacon, and you can go to the last page, I think it is, or the next to last page, and it has all the presidents and their names.
Okay.
And phone numbers.
Real good. I'll do that.
And we're glad to be invited.
Well, I'm really pleased that we were able to have someone of Deborah Ross's stature attend our meeting. We had, by my count, as many as 20 people online at one time. So at least we had a decent amount of people attending. So thank you for lining that up, John. And are there any other closing comments or observations, lamentations, or otherwise that we can talk about? If not, I'll thank you all for attending, and have a good month, and I'll be seeing your shiny faces on November 3rd.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. I'll be closing down the meeting then.
Thank
I like you, Mr.
And Henry, you're going to call me later on? Chris.
Yes, I will.
Okay, pal. I'm outside cutting the yard, so you might have to leave a message.
I'll call right now.
That'll work. Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Take care.